Hey there, peeps. It's me once again, and I'm back for another exclusive interview. This time, our special guest for our podcast session is no other than the Surf Finance lead developer himself, Mr. Proof. So, Proof, thanks for your time here with us and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. Really excited to be here. I've been going through some of your content recently, and I got to say that I'm really impressed with your approach. I love anybody that's willing to put the focus on education as opposed to just making money and potentially taking advantage of an audience that might not be as up to speed as the other people in the space. So I appreciate that you're somebody that's looking out for everyone, and that's what we're trying to do with the Surf project and all the other people that we're partnering with. So definitely feels like a good match to be talking to you and working through some of this stuff.
Okay, so that's great to hear from you, Proof. So, I would really appreciate that comment from you. So, thank you very much. All right,
Sure.
so so the first time that I've heard about Surf Finance was on Twitter. It's a tweet coming from crypto commissioner. So, shout out to that guy, though. So,
Oh,
when I
cool.
encountered the Surf Finance for the first time, I was kind of curious on what this project can do in the DeFi space. So, today is an opportunity for me and to all of you who are watching this video right now to learn more on what Surf Finance is coming from our amazing guest speaker today on its ecosystem, the use cases, and how it could make a difference in the crypto, blockchain, and DeFi space. So before we begin, I would like to say hello to all of our subscribers and our listeners here who are tuning in to our audio podcast session right now. So before we go to the questions, make sure you don't forget to smash the like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for you to stay notified about my latest videos and interviews regarding cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and DeFi. And you can follow my social media channels displayed here on the screen or in my YouTube description. Okay, so Proof, are we all set?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so first things first, I know that most of you here who are watching or tuning in into this podcast love to hear stories or journeys, right? Even me, of course, I love hearing stories on how you guys got started in your journey into the crypto, blockchain, and DeFi space and ended up working in your respective projects. Now, Proof, if you don't mind, could you share how you got started in exploring this industry and ended up being a lead developer with Surf Finance?
Yeah, so I've been somewhat of a serial entrepreneur for the majority of my life, really, starting in like eighth grade, digging into web projects and not really programming anything myself, but hiring a lot of people. And I just have always had a lot of ideas that I wanted to get built. Over time, I learned how to program, and I also had kind of a major passion for finance in general. I've done a lot of investing, even as a kid, buying stocks, buying options, getting into foreign exchange, all sorts of kind of investments, higher risk investments, especially that I'm sure many are familiar with. And then over time, I heard about cryptocurrency and I kind of felt like I missed the boat back in, I want to say it was like 2012 when Bitcoin was really first starting to take off. And I kind of ignored it for a while. And then was doing a lot of programming just with centralized systems, with bigger companies getting projects on app stores and things like that. And then about 3 years ago, I stumbled upon some Ethereum projects, and I didn't really realize there was any options outside of Bitcoin at the time. I wasn't aware of the fact that you could build smart contracts and applications on something like Ethereum. So once I saw that, honestly, I think it was love at first sight, recognizing that I could bring so many of my financial experiments and ideas that I've had for a really long time to life in a way that just works, permanently on the blockchain using Ethereum or networks that are like it, where a centralized actor can't do anything about it. They can't stop it. They can't prevent it, which I guess can be used for bad things. But to me, all technology has good and bad applications, and it's up to the people who are building on it. And I always have had in my head that I'm going to be doing a lot of great things, especially with technology like this. So it's a really liberating, it seems like a great sort of mashup for me of all of my different passions: video games, finance, programming, and meeting a lot of really cool guys over the last 3 years that I've made some just awesome friends, and it's people that I'm probably talking to more than anybody else. So it's been a really great crowd, and I love being a part of it. And I expect to be a part of it for a very, very long time, probably for the rest of my life. So yeah, just a little bit of background on that.
Wow, all I can say is that, it was great to hear from you, Proof, about your journey towards the crypto, blockchain, and DeFi space, as well as being the lead developer of Surf Finance. So, congrats to you, by the way. So, I mean, you deserve all of the hard work and effort due to your dedication in making Surf Finance as one of the ideal DeFi projects for this year and in many years to come. So, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Okay. So now my next question is all about the mission and vision. I know that most of our audience here are crypto, blockchain, and DeFi enthusiasts, and they really wanted to learn about the company's mission and vision in this disruptive global economy. Okay, Proof, could you share to us about Surf Finance mission and vision for us right here?
Sure. Yeah. So Surf is trying to be a decentralized hedge fund that will pay people out passive income every single day forever. And we're doing this by investing funds into other projects that provide revenue, and we feed our primary part of the Surf ecosystem, which is called the Whirlpool. So you can actually stake liquidity tokens in our Whirlpool and earn passive income all the time. A lot of us have been doing this since Surf launched at the very end of October of last year in 2020, and it's been paying out really well, and very few people are aware of that. So we've basically been able to build this passive income machine around a community that is really focusing on looking out for one another, educating one another, protecting one another, and hopefully in the long run making a lot of money with one another, but not at really anybody's expense or through manipulation like you might see in other projects. We have a very long-term focus. I'm definitely not trying to push any sort of get rich quick scheme. The math is very sound when it comes to Surf. There's a lot of money that's in the ecosystem now that's basically owned by nobody, and whoever is left in the ecosystem will get the majority of that money. So there's just a model that works right now, and it supports everything we're trying to do moving forward. And it also allows us to focus on the partnerships and education of all sorts of newcomers to the space, which I think is going to be critical, not only for Surf, but for crypto adoption as a whole. So probably a little bit different than you're used to hearing with other projects that I think really put a focus on hype and trying to generate kind of a FOMO environment where, in my opinion, it's not really responsible. We want people to be doing a lot of research on their investments, knowing what they're getting involved in, and not actually having a strong fear of missing out on some gains. You should be a lot more afraid of losing your principal that you're investing with, because I believe that we're kind of at the start really of a longer term bull run, especially with all the institutional adoption that's going on. So to me, I just think it's important to prioritize that these should be long-term investments, and they can be life-changing investments. It can really bring generational wealth for the people that are patient and know that it's all about the time in the market instead of timing the market. And that's really what Surf is trying to focus on.
All right, so that's a very interesting mission and vision that you have for Surf Finance, especially that you're mentioning about the passive income part. So I hope all of you here who are tuning in to our exclusive Audra podcast interview right now are learning about it. So let's just hope that with your strong mission and vision, you guys could make a huge difference in the DeFi space. So Proof, thank you very much for that. So about this next question of mine, this is really important for all of you who are tuning in right now, because I know most of you here have no idea or a little bit of idea or something that you did not understand yet about this project. So it's all about the entire ecosystem of Surf Finance, okay, which also covers the real and positive use cases of it for the crypto, blockchain, and DeFi investors and enthusiasts around the world. Now, Proof, if you don't mind, could you share to us how Surf Finance ecosystem works for us, especially your competitive advantages and benefits for users like me?
Sure. So the surf ecosystem, I would say, has kind of two primary pieces at its core. One is the whirlpool, which is this kind of long-term. It's something you stake your liquidity tokens into, and you get passive income all the time. And then there's the actual surf token itself, which is kind of interesting. Right now, it has a 1% transfer fee, and that entire fee gets sent to people that are staking in the whirlpool. That's a big part of where that passive income comes from. And the token is also, I would almost call it like an airdrop token, in that we're not airdropping surf to anybody. The entire surf supply is already out there and it's already fairly distributed. And you can buy this from decentralized exchanges. But what we're really trying to do with it is, just by holding surf or having a stake in the whirlpool, you're going to be getting all sorts of other tokens as well over time, because we have a very capable developer team. We have a lot of projects lined up and a lot of plans basically to create projects all over the place on different blockchains, not just Ethereum. And all of those projects are able to feed other tokens and revenue back to the surf holders and the whirlpool stakers. So just by having access or having an investment in surf or the whirlpool, you're actually going to be exposed to a lot of other products in crypto. And ideally, they're things that have a pretty solid risk to reward ratio. We have a lot of smart brains that are looking into all of this and doing research, and we're discussing things all the time. The best place to move funds to bring more and more revenue back into the ecosystem. So really, the primary kind of difference between a lot of the other projects out there right now is we have just a sustainable model. You can stake in the whirlpool right now and have passive income coming in. And if you were to leave, there's basically this unstaking fee, which might be scary to people, but I would say only invest or stake in the whirlpool if you have a long-term mindset, because that unstaking fee is something you have to recoup, I would say, first. Otherwise, you're going to lose money. And a lot of people have actually been very impatient. And that unstaking fee that they've had to pay when they leave is what we then use as a community to go invest in these other projects. So it's actually a really cool concept where even as people are leaving the ecosystem, they actually make our ecosystem stronger, and they have basically extra rewards for everybody that's still around. So if you're somebody that has found yourself just kind of chasing all of these different tokens, or you hear like, hey, this is the new hype token, and you have friends saying, hey, make sure you invest in this, it's going to go up 1,000% overnight. I would say do your best to start moving away from projects like that, where it's all about hype and it's all about FOMO, and look into something like the whirlpool, where it's simply a question of how long are you willing to wait. And you don't really have to wait that long to even recoup your 25% fee. And we have so many things coming that I think that anybody in the whirlpool or anybody holding surf is going to be doing very well this year. So obviously, I'm not trying to give like financial investment or investment advice, but for me personally, I've invested the vast majority of my crypto into this project. I didn't get a bunch of surf as a developer. I got Ethereum that I decided to buy my surf with, and I am staked in the whirlpool, and I plan on being staked there for probably forever, because the passive income that comes in is awesome. So for people that are looking for that, I would say there probably isn't a much better value play than surf right now, and we're really catering towards the patient, longer term investment mindset.
Okay, so I hope that those of you who are tuning into this podcast right now have finally understood about the ecosystem of Surf Finance, especially its real and positive use cases like staking in the whirlpool. Of course, I'm very impressed with the concept of Surf Finance so far that you have explained earlier. It's something that most of the people around the world who are into DeFi really need to check this out. So Anyways, Proof, I appreciate the way you've shared this to us. So thank you. And
You're
to
welcome.
follow up, yeah. And to follow up about the whirlpool, recently, I am very curious about these three different smart contracts. So they are named as Surf, Whirlpool, and Tito. So if you don't mind, could you share the differences between the Surf, Tito, and Whirlpool smart contracts so that me and the rest who are tuning into our interview would learn more about it?
Yeah. So basically, each of these contracts is necessary because they're handling a different kind of core piece of the ecosystem. The Surf contract is the actual Surf token contract. So this is an ERC20 contract that handles the transfers. It handles kind of that transfer fee that we have built in. It has kind of governance things in which aren't actually going to be used because there will be a separate governance system built. But it's really just kind of a simple ERC20 contract, like the majority of the tokens that are out there, with some changes in logic for how the transfer fee works. The Tito contract isn't really relevant right now. It's how Surf launched. And we launched using farm pools, which we called beaches to kind of keep the Surf theme. And that's how the entire 10 million token supply for Surf was distributed to all of the holders that maybe not currently have it, since people could have sold. But at the very beginning, we started with 0 Surf, and through that Tito contract, 10 million Surf was minted and distributed to people that were farming from our project. So Tito is no longer active. Once that phase ended and we hit all 10 million Surf mined, the Whirlpool contract became activated. And what that basically means is people were able to, and this is what you're able to do today, they were able to take their Ethereum versus Surf LP tokens, which, if you're not familiar with that concept, these are liquidity tokens that are used on something like Uniswap, which is a major decentralized exchange. So you can take that liquidity, stake it in the Whirlpool, and then start earning Surf from it. So all three of those contracts at the very beginning were needed, and they were all communicating with each other. But now it's really Surf and the Whirlpool. And then we have, I think, close to 10 other contracts that have also been launched for some of our smaller projects. One of them is called Surf 3D. One of them is called Surf Stacker. We have a developer, Pep, that is working on a lot of really fun systems. There's one called Atlantis Core, which basically rewards people for calling certain functions that move rewards throughout the system, or move Surf throughout the system. And that allows everything to keep flowing in a decentralized way. And in terms of the name, so Tito, for anybody not aware, there was this show called Rocket Power on Nickelodeon. I think it was maybe 2 decades ago. I'm not sure if they like rebooted it or anything, but it was a bunch of kids that were into extreme sports. So they would surf, they would skate, rollerblade, snowboard, bike, and it was just a really fun show. And their dad's name was Tito, and he was a chef at, I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but he was supposedly a really good chef. And our original contract for Tito came from the sushi swap contract called Master Chef. So we were kind of honoring the Master Chef idea by going with Tito, but it kind of fit into the Surf theme. So more of an inside joke than anything else. But that was how we launched everything fairly. It's not really relevant right now, though.
Wow, at least that's great to hear from you, Proof, explaining the differences between Surf, Whirlpool, and Tita's smart contracts. Especially, you mentioned Tita is no longer relevant. Okay, so hopefully everyone here who is tuning in to our interview have learned something coming from our guest speaker in our today. And also, I had to admit that, I think this is the first project that I've encountered with 3 different contracts, So
we're going to have a lot more too.
yeah, so it's something unique in my eyes. I've learned a lot, by the way. So thank you for explaining this to us, Proof. Okay, now
Yeah,
let's proceed to the next question. Okay, so I see that in the Dapps section you have the Surf Stacker Plus, and Surf 3D. So if you don't mind, could you share what these Dapps can do within the ecosystem of Surf Finance and their different functions as well?
Sure. So at a high level, I would say Surf Stacker Plus, Surf 3D, and we have like three other projects that are going to be coming pretty soon as well that are going to be similar. Think of these as almost arcade games in a big arcade. And if you kind of view the whole surf ecosystem as an arcade, like an actual business, right when you walk in the door, you have to make this decision of, do you want to simply get arcade tokens that you can then go around and play these arcade games with, or would you like to own a piece of the arcade? And owning a piece of the arcade would be the equivalent of staking liquidity in the whirlpool. That gives you a cut of all of the surf transactions that are moving through the ecosystem. So, for example, if someone were to take 100 surf and go deposit that into Surf Stacker, which is basically it's just a really simple line. It's like a queue system where you can deposit funds, and once you get to the front of the line, you withdraw 15% more than what you put in once you get to the front. So it takes time for it to happen, but all you have to give is patience. So if you were to deposit 100 surf into that system, there's a 1% transfer fee on surf. So one of those surf will actually get sent to the whirlpool, where it's then instantly divided amongst everyone who's staking there. So if you kind of view these other dApps as an arcade game, then you're taking your surf tokens and you're going and playing them, and the hope is that you withdraw more arcade tokens than you put in. But my overall kind of recommendation for that is to always have a stake in the whirlpool, because then you're always earning surf tokens. So it's, if you really enjoy these games and you think you can go make more surf, then using that arcade metaphor, you're earning revenue from your cut of the arcade ownership, and then you take those tokens and you get to go play whatever games you want with those tokens and hope to earn more. So it's kind of a really cool feedback loop, where even if you run out of surf, as long as you have your whirlpool stake, you'll replenish that surf over time. And that's kind of what keeps the whole system turning. So we're planning on creating a lot more of these dApps, like Surf Stacker and Surf 3D, with the underlying goal being that it's locking up portions of the supply and adding just more buy pressure from all sorts of different angles to surf, which should really help the price over time. That's the underlying idea behind them. And some of, like, I'm not really going to dig into the details of what those dApps do, because that could take a lot of time on its own, but they're not crazy complicated concepts. It's just more catering to the people that don't have the longer term passive income mindset. They just want to invest in something that might be more fun. It's more similar to like a game of poker or something, where they want to invest and have the opportunity to make money, but they're looking for something quicker. So we have a little bit of something for everybody here, but the focus is always on the long-term rewards.
I see. Wow. So I mean, that's how Surf Stacker, Surf Stacker Plus, and Surf 3D dApps work in the ecosystem of Surf Finance. I think these dApps that you have mentioned are doing great in terms of their functions and purpose. So this is another great learning for me, and I know you guys who are listening to our exclusive podcast interview are also learning from us as well. So once again, Proof, thank you so much for explaining these dApps to us. Now let's go to the next question, shall we? I know that these newbies and beginners have no clue on what these surfboards are in the surf shop marketplace. So for the sake of our listeners here who are tuning in to our podcast session who doesn't know what these surfboards are, if you don't mind, could you explain what is it for them if they're going to buy any of this in the surf shop marketplace, and what sort of perks do you guys mean if we own one of these surfboards?
Yeah, that's a great question. So surfboards are an NFT that stands for a non-fungible token. It basically means that there can only be one of those tokens in existence, and if you own it, you own whatever asset they're saying it represents. So in our case, the asset is technically nothing more than just an image of a surfboard, like with our logo on it. But under the hood, compared to almost every other NFT that's out there right now, anyone who might be familiar with crypto kitties or crypto punks, a lot of these new kind of art projects that are popping up with, like, random pixel generators, and people are spending lots of money on these images. None of those actually have any underlying utility. You're really just buying uniqueness and hoping that through a speculative investment like that, over time, the item becomes more rare and more desirable, and you can hopefully sell it for more. The surfboards are interesting in that they're actually earning surf through one of our kind of add-on contracts in the ecosystem. And I believe at this point, each surfboard has already earned over 500 surf. Yeah, I think that sounds right. So right now with surf at about 45 cents, I think that's a little under $250. And it's just interesting. You have this NFT that there's only 100 of, and actually there's less. There's probably like 95 or 96, because some of them have been locked into other contracts on behalf of other projects, and they're earning rewards now. So we're really excited about coming up with interesting ways to provide utility. I have some other ideas in mind. I'm probably actually going to make kind of a hot potato game or system out of it, where owning a surfboard can end up being really, really lucrative in the long run, just because of how rare they are. There's less than 100, and so I think that they'll become more desirable over time, and maybe we'll even make it some kind of membership pass or something. Just by owning one, you have special access to maybe like a dinner or something if we host a big surf summit. I think there's all sorts of fun ways we can go about that. But I would just say, first and foremost, it offers utility in the form of dividends, which makes it better than like 99.9% of all other NFTs out there.
Wow, so these surfboards are NFTs, huh? Now that really makes sense on what is it for us if we're going to buy any of these surfboards in their marketplace. And of course, as what I've seen in these surfboards, like we are getting some perks, as you have mentioned. I think this would definitely benefit those who have owned some of these. At least we've learned something about these surfboards, and it's going to be worth in the long run right here in the DeFi space. And I had to admit though, I've been looking into the NFT industry nowadays, although that it's still a very young market, but it looks very promising because a lot of enthusiasts in this space are already collecting some NFTs, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. So anyways, Pripa, thank you so much for explaining these surfboards to us. All right. So let's proceed now with the next question. So I certainly believe that one of the key factors that would make the project grow in the long run are partnerships. So speaking of the partnerships, whether if they are on board or upcoming or both, could you at least name some of them for our listeners who are tuning into us in our exclusive audio podcast right now?
Sure. One of the biggest partnerships I'm most excited about is with the Topia Network team, who will be releasing the BetGalaxy.io casino. I'm guessing in the second half of this month. They've been working really hard on it. It's going to be, I think, a huge casino. There's lots of cryptocurrencies they're going to be accepting. Surf is one of those currencies that you will be able to deposit into their casino and actually play all of their games with, which we think is awesome, and we think it's going to get a lot of use. And we're really excited about how that can work. And so one of the things we've done is, with those community funds that I mentioned that get raised through our Whirlpool unstaking fee, as a community, we actually bought 6.1% of their entire token supply. And the way that their casino is going to work is the revenue that comes in will be divided amongst token holders. So our 6.1% ownership in those tokens is actually going to be paying the Surf ecosystem and the Whirlpool directly weekly revenue from the casino. And it actually could be substantial because of how many tokens we own and how popular we think this casino is going to end up being. So that's something that has actually been, I think it's been finalized for over 2 months, and the Bet Galaxy Topia team has been working on all the final touches for that before they launch. So we think it's going to be huge for them and huge for us, which we're really excited about. Another project is one that's coming up on Binance Smart Chain. This is a Surf Launchpad project. So the Surf Launchpad is basically a way for other developers to bring exciting project ideas to our team and have access to the surf community, which is thousands of people, thousands of awesome people, and basically have really quick marketing access and eyes from developers that can help them audit. So the project that's coming out on Binance Smart Chain is called Inferno.finance, which I actually talked about I kind of do a little podcast for the surf community. We call them Surfcasts. I gave one last night. There will be some of those details in our Discord and Telegram server if anyone wants to hear that. But I kind of go into detail about Inferno.finance. And that's something that I would suspect a lot of you guys, if you're paying attention to Binance Smart Chain at all, you'll probably hear and see this project over the coming weeks when this gets launched, because there's some exciting ideas behind it. But at its core, it's going to benefit the surf ecosystem. Just by owning surf or having a stake in the whirlpool, you will directly benefit from the launch of Inferno.finance. So those are just kind of two quick partnerships, but we have so many other ones that are being talked about. We have at least 3 other people and teams that I would say are working on really cool projects that have not announced them yet. I'm not really allowed to talk about them yet, but they're directly integrating with Surf because they love what we've been building. And I'm excited to help them with their project because they have some really cool stuff coming as well. So I would say, I'm someone that's going to be trying to unify our community with other communities and grow them and merge them and really look out for each other. I think that's the best shot that all of us have to kind of get some of that generational wealth over time, is just being patient, looking out for each other, and sharing ideas across communities. So we plan on continuing to do that.
Wow. I mean, those are pretty solid partnerships that you have mentioned to us right now. So I just hope that these partnerships you have would continue to thrive for a very long time in order for Surf Finance to become solid even more than ever. So once again, Proof, thank you so much for sharing this to us. So let's move on to the next question. So I had to admit though, in my previous interviews right here on YouTube and Facebook Live, especially podcasts, most of my guests love to talk about their company or project's achievements. Now, speaking of the achievements, could you share some of Surf Finance accomplishments from the beginning until now?
Sure. Honestly, I think one of the biggest accomplishments was just our volume that we had right out of the gate. Our first day, I think, was $30 million in volume. Our launch went off smoothly. All of the major transitions in terms of like the Tito contract shutting off and the Whirlpool contract activating, everything worked perfectly. As a developer, we're especially working with real money on a blockchain like this, there's a lot of, I don't know what the right word is. I want to say fear, but I don't want to like scare anybody with that. There's just this feeling of like, I really hope that this all goes off without a hitch. So when it did, I would say that alone is probably one of my biggest accomplishments. It's such a relieving feeling to know that all this work and all the time put into these contracts was worth it, and nobody lost any major money from like an exploit or a bug that we missed. And it really just takes a lot of time to think through these things. So I'm really proud of the team's patience, the community's patience, because we did take a little bit longer to launch, and it was because we refused to launch before we felt we were ready. So definitely just knowing that we made those right decisions and, by not rushing, hopefully that was one of the major reasons we were able to launch and have all of these really smooth transitions. So that's definitely one of my biggest accomplishments throughout this.
All right, so that's great to hear from you, Proof, in sharing about the achievements that you guys have from the beginning until now. I honestly know that it's such a great feeling for you guys to accomplish this stuff that you just mentioned, and hopefully that Surf Finance will have more achievements in the next few months, years or so. So well done to you guys. All right, so yeah, you're welcome. So let's proceed with the next question, Proof. I know that aside from the achievements that you have shared to us right here on our exclusive podcast, we are also facing challenges as well. No matter what aspect of life are we in, challenges are always there and we're not exempted from it. Now, Proof, could you share about the recent challenges that you guys are facing from the beginning until now? And how do you guys cope up with them?
Sure. Some of the biggest challenges are directly relating to the technology that we're using, building on Ethereum. It's an entirely different approach to programming compared to a more traditional, like Web 2.0 site, something like a Facebook or a Twitter. Those are obviously very complex systems, but when you're trying to bring stuff over to the blockchain, you really have to change your entire mindset on how those things get architected. So I would say there's constantly a challenge when it comes to figuring out the best way to approach a new project, how it's going to integrate into all of our existing ecosystem, and avoid bugs, avoid possibilities for exploits or economic attacks, which we've been hearing a lot about over the last 6 months, where, there's a random vault on a farm platform that gets drained for 25 or 30 million dollars. And like, that's a huge hit for the investors there. So those are things that they always have to be taken seriously. You have to spend a lot of time thinking through them. You typically are going to move slower than almost everybody wants. And there can be, there's definitely a challenge, I think, in handling kind of community pressure and making sure that you're showing progress, because like we have so many things in the works right now. And I think people can often get frustrated because it's like, it's been a week or it's been 2 weeks. What's taking so long on this stuff? And it just takes a lot of time and thought to make sure that we're building things safely. And then on top of that, you have obviously these kind of sky high Ethereum gas fees, which are a massive challenge for us right now because we have 3 projects that are completed and we haven't been able to launch. We were hoping to launch them actually in the middle of February, on February 14th. And we couldn't do it because literally that day, Ethereum was breaking records for how expensive gas fees were. And it's just not fun for people. Like nobody wants to trade a token when it costs $150 or $200 to trade that token. So we've had to sort of think through branching out onto other blockchains like Binance Smart Chain or XDAI, or I think we'll be looking into Polkadot and Polygon. Because otherwise you can get stuck and not actually able to build the things that you want to build. So there's so many challenges in this space, but I'm not trying to discourage anybody, especially those that want to build. I would say if you're someone that's kind of a natural problem solver and a natural tinkerer, and especially if you have a programming background, definitely take a look into this technology and what can be built on it, because there's a lot of smart people trying to figure out the best solution for all of this right now, but there's so many competing solutions. I don't think there's any clear winners yet. So it will remain a challenge for the foreseeable future. But for someone like me, it's kind of an exciting thing. I like the challenge. I'm working with a lot of guys that like the challenge, and it's more fun than a negative.
Wow, I mean, that's really inspiring in how you guys cope up with those challenges to make Surf Finance grow even more. Let's just hope that you guys would remain consistent no matter if those challenges are difficult than ever. So we've been into many storms in our lives, and escaping them isn't the solution for us to become successful, but rather go through it until you finally overcome it. And that's what you guys been doing this day. So once again, Proof, thank you so much for sharing that to us.
Yeah.
Okay, and for my next question, this is a follow-up regarding the challenges that we're facing these days. And I know you guys are feeling the same as well when it comes to the exorbitant gas fees of Ethereum, because you guys are running under the Ethereum blockchain. So yeah, the main concern that we have these days in the Ethereum network, especially those DeFi projects that are running on this network, are experiencing high gas fees and uncontrollable congestion. Like these users who want to buy surf tokens, surfboards, etc., but the fees are so high. I even see that other projects are considering reissuing their tokens to the other blockchains, like you mentioned Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, Polygon, etc., to save gas fees. Proof, could you share some of your own thoughts or opinions about this, especially if there's a possibility that Surf Finance could migrate to any other blockchain if Ethereum gas fees remain high in the long run?
Sure. And so this is actually cool. This is something I cover in detail as well in the Surfcast I gave last night. But at a high level, what we're planning on is always keeping our core components on Ethereum. So that would be the Surf token contract itself and the Whirlpool. These are the most valuable pieces in our ecosystem, or the most critical at least. And I don't know. I personally think that the security offered by Ethereum is probably the best in the world. Maybe there's other chains like Cardano that are going to be able to catch up. But at least for now, to me, it makes a lot of sense to keep the most valuable stuff on Ethereum and then come up with a system to branch out onto these other chains. So we've done exactly that. We have now moved more than $50,000 in liquidity onto both the XDAI chain, which is basically a faster version of Ethereum, but it works as exactly the same, and you can use your MetaMask account, and also Binance Smart Chain. And we'll also be setting up on Polygon, which was, I think it's a rebrand from Matic. So we're going to have liquidity on decentralized exchanges on at least 4 blockchains total, with Ethereum being one of them. And we've basically set things up so that as projects and other things are launching on a chain like Binance Smart Chain or XDAI, rewards can get sent back to Ethereum and to the Whirlpool stakers. And that can all be done in a trustless way, meaning I personally don't have to like transfer those funds to everybody. We're coming up with a system where you can actually go call a function that will move those rewards back to Ethereum, and you'll earn something for doing that, as basically as a thank you. So the reality is Ethereum fees are high. These other chains don't have as high of fees, but they can go up as they actually get more use. But I think as that starts happening, the fees on Ethereum will likely decline, or at least stabilize to something that we can all we just kind of know, like, hey, it's more expensive to use Ethereum, but hopefully it's not like $200 to make a trade. I think anything under like $30 would be awesome in the long run. But even though that's still really expensive, but if we can kind of get down to a lower number, that's ideal. And then we can use all of these other faster chains that might not offer as much security when it comes to, all of the decentralization that Ethereum offers. But we can launch projects that are sending revenue back to Ethereum. So we're not betraying or moving away from Ethereum necessarily. We're just using it for the most critical pieces of the ecosystem. And that might feel like a very confusing thing to people overall, but I actually think it keeps things simple, and it allows us to not stay paralyzed by only being able to launch things on Ethereum. But so if you want, the easiest thing to do when it comes to Surf is just to stake in the Whirlpool, and you can basically just forget about it. You'll be earning Surf forever, and you only need to do anything with that Surf when you're looking to raise a little bit of money or you want to sell. So you can just let it sit there and reap rewards from all of the activity we'll be bringing to these other chains. And overall, this is a model I'm hoping a lot of other projects adopt. I think it'll really help out with the gas fees as a whole on Ethereum, and educate a lot of people with all of these other chains that are popping up, that I don't think any of them are going to kill Ethereum. I think they're going to be complementary to Ethereum. They're going to be able to work together with Ethereum and open up a whole lot of other doors towards interesting new applications, which is always exciting.
All right, so at least you've shared to us about your opinion regarding the exorbitant gas fees of Ethereum and how could it affect Surf Finance, because you guys are using their blockchain right now. I want to share my experience when I'm trying to swap an ERC20 token to a Uniswap. So, there are 2 types of fees, right? Such as the approval and the transaction.
Right.
So I initiated a couple of swaps last time, and to summarize, I have paid $45 and $57 respectively in just fees alone for just swapping an ERC20 token to Ethereum via Uniswap. It's really frustrating, until the official launch of Ethereum 2.0 that would transition to proof of stake. That would be a possible solution to control and minimize the gas fees, right?
I do think it's going to help with that significantly. And also I would look into EIP 1559, which is trying to bring kind of a stabilization to gas fees, and it actually will make Ethereum deflationary, which is a pretty bullish economic concept. That's actually what Surf is as well. Surf started at 10 million tokens and now it's down 50,000. It's 9.95 million. And Ethereum can basically work the same way. I think they're voting on this in the summer, or it has the opportunity to be implemented on Ethereum in the summer. I would say that that's one of the best shorter term solutions outside of maybe getting rid of the concept of being able to withdraw or get a refund on gas from a contract, which is how some of these gas tokens work. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but I know Vitalik has talked about removing the ability to get those refunds, which would kill the gas tokens. But there's a lot of speculation on these gas tokens right now, and I think it's hurting gas and the network as a whole because it's keeping those prices propped up, because now it's something that people are trading on instead of just letting it be used as the thing to process transactions with. So there's a couple things that can make the situation better, but I think it's really going to be a combination of a lot of solutions, like branching off onto these other networks in the meantime while we wait for the big upgrades to come to Ethereum.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to that. So it's because I know that most of the crypto, blockchain, and DeFi enthusiasts who are tuning into us right now may be interested in getting some Surf tokens, either for holding, trading, or adding some liquidity, buying surfboard NFTs and other stuff, but they're not happy with the uncontrollable exorbitant gas fees today, especially those with just a small budget to buy some surf. It's just my own opinion anyways. If we stay put, no matter, no disrespect to Ethereum though, it's just the reality that we're experiencing nowadays. So anyways,
Yeah.
once again, thank you so much for sharing to us your opinion about this. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Now, let's move on to the next question. Now, this is something that most of the crypto, blockchain, and DeFi enthusiasts are looking forward to these days, especially Surf Finance. The ones that I'm talking about are the project's future plans, exciting updates, and maybe some of the little spoilers for the community. All right, Proof, if you don't mind, could you share some of the exciting updates, future plans, and if you have spoilers, you can do so for our amazing subscribers and listeners who are tuning into our audio podcast session right now?
Yeah. I would basically expect you guys to see Surf over the coming years turn into almost a complete one-stop shop for all sorts of decentralized financial things. You'll be able to take a loan out against your Whirlpool position, that you can invest into other things, that you can withdraw into fiat to do things in real life, or just make other investments. So that's going to be really exciting. We're going to have synthetic assets coming, which will allow us to create tokens that mirror tokens on something like the New York Stock Exchange. So you can actually have exposure to Apple and Tesla and all those big companies just on Ethereum, just through something like Surf, and it should dramatically benefit the rest of the ecosystem. We also expect to have, I think, some really, really innovative, interesting crypto projects that I'm trying to think how much I can spoil right now. I just have some really wild ideas for more than just financial experiments, psychological experiments, and really figuring out what makes people tick, and especially creating games and systems that reward patience. That's always going to be a big part of what I'm building, and I think what the Surf community as a whole is building. So I don't know. I would expect a lot of cohesiveness within the ecosystem, a lot of Dapps and components that just work really well together and are driving tremendous value back to the Surf token and to the ecosystem as a whole.
Now, that's very nice to hear coming from you, Proof, about the exciting updates, future plans, and other stuff that would make the entire community excited even more. So I'm really looking forward to these exciting updates that would mean a bright future ahead for Surf Finance. So it's going to be great, Proof. So thank you so much for sharing this to me and to our listeners right here. All right. Now, let's move forward to my final question.
All
Okay.
right.
So, assuming that our listeners here who are tuning to this exclusive podcast interview who are interested or ready to buy some surf tokens, here's the thing. Could you give us some reasons why should we grab and hold some surf tokens right now rather than later? Like, what is it for us if we're gonna buy surf tokens today, or what could we miss if we don't buy them early?
Sure. So we have three projects right now that are completed, ready to be deployed. We don't know exactly when we're going to be doing this because obviously the things we've talked about today, the high gas fees on Ethereum, and if we launch on a different chain, which I think we'll probably do, we just haven't fully decided which one we would do yet. And we're trying not to rush into anything, but we have three of these projects ready to go that I believe are going to really, really dramatically increase the price of Surf once they're launched. And then we also have this Surf Launchpad project called Inferno Finance that we're hoping to have done pretty soon here. And once that goes out, it's another thing that is really going to add buying pressure to the Surf token. So, I would just say when you're looking at some of these other projects that are going up 1,000% overnight or sometimes even more, and they have a market cap of 50 million or $100 million, and you're not even really sure what value or underlying utility they're even offering, I would say go back and then look at us and look at Surf, which only has like a $4 million market cap and has all of these projects that are going to be coming out, and honestly just has a community that is doing so much great work right now. It just feels inevitable that we're going to have a massive explosion in our price and a lot of interest. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I could see it happening pretty soon. So for me personally, I've been stacking a lot of Surf. I've been stacking. I have a huge stack in the Whirlpool that's generating me Surf all the time. I don't think I've ever been more bullish on a token or an ecosystem than I am on Surf. It doesn't even really matter that I'm involved in it. I guess that helps, obviously, because I know what we're building. But even just looking at it as an outsider, and I've talked to so many people that once they kind of grasp the underlying math and how this works, they get really excited about it. And it's like, hey man, how do I get crypto? What are all the steps I got to do? So I would just say there's a lot of people looking at Surf right now, learning about Surf. It's not something that you can get fully up to speed on in like 5 or 10 minutes. Definitely have a couple hours at least set aside when you're diving in. But I believe that once you do, the reasons for investing and wanting to be a part of this are just going to jump out at you right away. So it really just feels like a matter of time before we get a big liftoff. So especially if you have a patient mindset, it could be something that you want to look into sooner than later.
All right. Wow. So you've heard it from Proof, everyone, on why we should be having some Surf tokens today rather than later. So hopefully Proof had answered all of the questions that I have asked him in our exclusive podcast today. And no doubt that we've learned so much from this guy. So thank you very much for that, Proof.
You're welcome.
Okay, so before we end, could you invite our amazing subscribers and listeners who are tuning into us right now here on YouTube to check out Surf Finance website, social media channels, etc. So, Proof, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so our website is surf.finance. On that site, we have links to our Discord, to our Telegram, though our Discord is our main community. We try to stay active in Telegram, but most of the fun stuff is happening in Discord. It's a lot easier to kind of get organized. We have a lot of different channels, a lot of things going on. We have art competitions if anybody is a great artist, and we're fairly generous with our rewards. People are making a lot of money from this stuff right now, and we're always looking for new talent. And from there, also on the website, there's the white paper, which is out of date right now. I'm currently working on updating it because a lot of it is focusing on how we launched the ecosystem, so it's not as relevant anymore. But there's lots of ways to kind of dig into what we have going on. Another one, a project that's actually been put together by the community, and it might be the best place to start, is Surf surffinance.webflow.io. And it's this landing page that has been put together, and this is put together by community members, which I think is just unbelievably impressive. And they really give an overview of what our project is, and it gives you links to all sorts of important things and the main website itself. So that will eventually be integrated into our main domain at surf.finance, but that's kind of a work in progress right now, but it's a really, really great educational tool. And from there, I would just say any questions you have, any ideas you have, any criticisms you have, bring them to me, bring them to some of our mods or other team members in our Discord community. Well, we're open to hearing just about anything. We just ask, that you be respectful to everybody else, and we welcome everyone. So I really appreciate everyone listening in today and learning about the project, and I would love to hear from you guys. So please reach out and let us know what you think, and let us know what your ideas are.
All right, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest for today, the lead developer of Surf Finance, Mr. Proof. So once again, Proof, thank you so much for your time with us here in the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Jeff.
Okay, and also I would like to thank all of our subscribers and listeners here who are tuning into our exclusive podcast interview with Proof. I hope you guys have learned so much from this interview. So if you have any questions that were not yet answered right here, I would invite you guys to leave down your comments right here on the video, or you can go to their official Telegram chat. And of course, if you like what you're seeing right here in this interview, kindly don't hesitate or think twice in sharing this exclusive podcast session to your crypto, blockchain, and DeFi colleagues out there. And one more thing, peeps, I'm inviting you all to smash the like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for you to stay notified about my latest videos regarding cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and DeFi. And you can also follow my social media channels right here or in my YouTube description. Okay guys, so from my freaking home studio, this is Jeff aka Nomad Fury, and see you all on my next video. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Proof.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, man.